going to turn the recording off.
Okay, I can get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
I'll post this one.
Okay, let me see, everybody's here, with the exception of Maggie. It's 4:05. So we have two sets of minutes that Jesse sent out this morning that I would like a motion on. First, let's take the April 20th. Anybody have any issues with that set of minutes?
Which set we were looking at, the set of April.
April 20th.
Is it really, it's seven? Sorry, item 9.
Yep.
Making Groton, blah, blah,
Yep,
to receive
that's what,
$76.
$76,000.
yeah, that's right.
Does it say 76? Sorry.
Missing a service. 7,600, but it looks like 76.
No, it is 76,000. Sorry. EEB. Okay.
One correction.
Shows how blind I am today. I just read those again about an hour ago.
Move to accept the minutes of April 20th as submitted.
Okay, any discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, moving on to the March 16th minutes.
May 16th.
Huh?
May
May
16th.
I'm sorry, May 16th, sorry. A motion on this one?
I was not present, so I can't.
Okay,
I probably shouldn't. Why don't you two do it?
okay, I'll move the minutes.
Seconded.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
All right, okay, good, we got that taken care of. Okay, do we have any people from the public who wish to make a statement? Looks like we don't have anybody from the public tonight, okay?
But we don't know that, right? Oh, I guess it's,
They
we
can
know that,
watch
but
without-
it's being recorded.
What's being recorded
Maybe that we,
after the fact.
after the fact.
Yeah, but we have no one who wishes to address the task force.
Right.
Okay, the only announcement I have is that you all saw, I think, and got a copy of the fact that we actually did get a $200,000 grant for resiliency, so which Megan had put together through DEEP. You
Develop a
also
climate action plan.
a climate action plan on resiliency. I think it's principally.
To develop a climate action plan.
Yeah. So, but she's not here. She's up in New Hampshire meeting with the new intern to start that program going.
Actually, the new intern is making some sort of a presentation of.
Yes, she is.
Is that what I read?
Yes.
But as in defending her thesis or something like that?
Remember what?
Maybe not.
I don't think so. I think it was
I may
just
have
a-
read too much.
Yeah. So that's the news. The other thing that I was going to say is that it looks like the way the article was written, that there is some town money involved. And I was unaware that that was the case, but we'll find out soon enough.
And she is going to the town council on Tuesday to get their
Yes.
approval to accept the grant, which is pro forma.
Say that again?
She has to go to the town council to get their approval to get them to approve
Maggie.
accepting the grant. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
For everybody.
Yes.
Um, do we know if that's going to occur next Tuesday?
Yes, it will. It's on
So we ought to
the,
hear all about it next Tuesday.
yeah, that's the idea. Maggie, you probably have heard that we got $200,000 grant. And Megan will take that to the council on next Tuesday, the night we're making a presentation. So we'll hear about more of the details. And Megan is currently up in New Hampshire. Okay, got that. Okay, so.
She's up to speed.
So the basic the reason for the special meeting is to talk about what to say or what we will consider presenting to the town council next Tuesday. I took and put together, have you got, she got one of these? Okay, you got one, okay. I guess we have extra here. This is more than we can put together, or more than I can present in the time that's allotted. I
How
think,
much time is it on? Do we
well,
know?
we don't know, but I think the consensus of everybody I've talked to is that we should be short and sweet,
15 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes at the maximum. So that's the sort of the overriding concern here. So these are the possible topics, and I haven't done any more than sort of outline them here. I think I'd be inclined to not list everything for sure, but give examples. For example, last year we did, we got started on the Mystic River Downtown Resiliency Study. That's in progress. We have
That's a surprise.
got someone showed up for our meeting.
The meeting room,
Yeah.
want the sign up?
Well, I mean, you can join us, you know. Good to see you. Then does somebody say that,
No, there's no idea.
that is, the head of the, economic development group. Who slips on my mind right now. It'll do that. Somebody state that we've, pleased to have Megan on board. As the manager of resiliency and sustainability, working in the Office of Planning and Building Services. Our activities last year, I guess the big issue that we got involved with was the concern about the data center, particularly the energy. Briefing from the sub base. We held our first forum late in May. I will probably show this as a exhibit of what that was like. So Brent bring up that to be determined, but that heat, climate and heat impacts be probably our next one, which would follow on with what Megan is doing with the intern. And I would guess late summer, early fall would be the time frame for that.
I'd say no, but go ahead.
Go ahead, why?
I think the heat session should be more like in the summer and directed at Paquonic Bridge area in particular. And I'll take advantage of warm weather. Now
We'll have data. It doesn't really matter when it has to happen during the.
well, I'm also thinking that of a forum on, I'm looking at these forums as ours, by the way.
Yes, I agree.
in case you wonder. the other forum we had talked about, with the Groton Long Point. And having that during the summer because people were there,
Yeah,
sort of a thing. And that would be more on the, on coastal impacts. You know, what you might do to your house, what all of this might mean in 5 or 10 years in terms of insurance on those houses down there, that sort of thing. So
Okay,
those two forums we're looking at right now.
well, those are two, exactly.
And I think when we talk about the heat, the other thing we talked about in the minutes at our last meeting was having that for the chronic area also include energy efficiency, air conditioning and stuff. And those actually mesh very well together. And
planting trees, and that's the thing I feel we should talk about, that our group could do. Go to the planting of trees.
Yeah,
For so many reasons, yeah.
That's right. And yeah, so that's,
so your idea, Frank, because Megan picked up on that in her notes to us that she wanted to do something related to heat. And my response to that was, I think that meshes very well with making particularly that area, if we hold it in that area, aware of the utility programs that could help them deal with some of those things.
well, we talked about heat last time,
Yes,
well before Megan was talking about heat.
Yes, no,
right.
but she has this intern
It's
coming.
very nice that she has an intern working on that right now. It really
Yeah.
helps.
But I think it's, I mean, the idea of doing something while residents are on Groton Long Point is actually something I hadn't thought about. And if we know what it is we would present, doing something like that in August could make a lot of sense.
Okay,
So
now,
those are the two subjects, and I thought
I think
the
that's,
sooner the better. I thought, you know, I'm not sure. I guess I'd wait to hear what the intern, she is an intern, right?
right,
Efforts are going to be providing.
which would be, hopefully we'll hear about that. Well, no.
I would assume that Megan will present some of that to the town council, don't you?
Why?
And
She doesn't.
if it's not on, if it's not on their agenda, she won't.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it's on her agenda or not. I can find out by calling the town. Manager's office.
I'm calling Megan, what she planned to talk about. You're not gonna tell her.
Well,
what to talk
no, what she told me is that she would be presenting the proposal for the $200,000 grant.
about. Oh, so whether or not that includes.
Whether that,
Okay.
and I don't think it does.
Well, climate action plan has got to include something about heat.
I agree. Well, we'll have to,
It's interesting, when I read that newspaper article, I didn't get a sense that it was in response to a proposal from the
Yeah,
town.
well, and Andre tried to take credit for it. It was Megan that did that. I
yeah,
shouldn't say that,
No.
but he
Because I
didn't
thought it
take
was-
credit for it. He was giving the public that information because in a sense, I don't know how Megan goes about doing that other than by going to the town.
See, when I saw it like that, I thought it was sort of grants to the towns.
Right.
All the towns got
That's
some
the
of
way
the
it
money,
came
and we
off.
got 200,000.
No, she applied for that back in the winter.
that was certainly the way it was presented from the governor's office. And here's the news release that the governor put together. It says 8.8 million to support 21 climate resilient plans and project development grants. Here it is,
From deep.
from deep,
She applied to deep.
and she had applied to deep. So this is what came out of the governor's office announcing all this stuff.
So if
Yeah.
we go back in our minutes, you'll see several times where Megan said in the minutes, I have not yet heard anything from the
That's right.
with regard
Yeah.
to.
And so that's what that's about.
Sure. Okay.
That's how, now,
So,
Go ahead.
now I'm confused that I don't know anything about a climate action plan. A plan for a climate action plan.
That was.
We
when
haven't heard
she-
anything about it, have we?
And she was hired, one of her very specific job roles was to develop a climate action plan for the town of Groton. She is seeking money to help get consultants, et cetera, so that she can create that plan.
Fine, as far as I can.
Yeah, well, she is, but this is
So
like,
she's on it, we don't know what she's on. Isn't that what your point is?
More or less, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the details.
I think we will.
We will.
absolutely.
But anyway, back
This is the
to,
way it works, so
well, it
the
depends,
current horses.
it depends how much we want to be driving it, but back to where you were going with what we're going to present on Tuesday night.
Right.
As you know, you moved
I mean,
right
I
through
don't
this very quickly, and I think all of this stuff is important, and it shows that you've been involved with a lot of things. I don't think you have to go into any kind of detail on any of these things, just presenting it kind of the way you are to us, just kind of rolling through. Do you think?
I mean,
She's doing exactly what we hired her to do.
Yeah.
That's go out and get funding for both planning and action. You know, I'm sure that she's written. I mean, I'm sure she's going to let us know exactly what she has in mind
Yeah.
for it. I have no problem with her generating that money without us, you know, necessarily putting a lot of input initial.
well, yeah, I know, and
I mean, we
we,
might want some serious input now that she's got the money as to how it's spent, but
I knew we were gonna head into this problem. She works for the town and we work for the town council. And, yes, it is us who pursued this to get her on board. That does not mean that we are overseeing her daily work, so to speak. I mean, I have tried to make that clear that we weren't her boss to both her and to John, to let her do her thing. And I think we have principally done that quite well, actually. But I'm concerned because, well, I'm concerned because of where she's located. And that's all about planning principally. And we had signaled that we wanted to see a bit more action. So there's going to be some tension there no matter what we do. I would argue that we actually, what we did back in 2011 was we actually put together the beginning of the climate plan, which included hiring someone like Megan and creating a fund so that we could make that all happen, as well as putting together the resolution that you'll consider climate as you go forward. Now, that's nowhere near enough. And the other thing that's happened is we've learned a hell of a lot more about what's possible these days, if you will.
We also have a climate, forget the word for a second, that really favors planning and action right now. We've got multi-millions to billions of dollars going into this
Absolutely.
that you didn't have it in 2021.
Exactly. There was some, but not a lot. Jesse?
I think I wouldn't say that Megan developing a climate action plan for the town is mutually exclusive to taking actions. And she clearly is working on other actions too, whether it's the Mystic River study, whether it's the heat study, et cetera. And I'm trying to remember whether we actually read her application to DEEP. I don't think we did. I think, but her application
No,
to
it's
DEEP
not.
would spell out a lot of what she anticipates doing in that plan.
No, we might ask to see that.
I'd love to see it just because I think it would be useful information.
Right.
Well, I think we do need to see it. As a matter of course.
And so perhaps a way of sort of meshing the task force with her efforts on that going forward is that when she sort of, whether it's that outline, because I don't know how detailed it was, or whether it's her making a presentation to us at our next meeting about what she anticipates doing in that, you know, with the question, are there things that we think ought to be in there that aren't?
I wondered how, it would be good because then the right arm knows what the left arm is doing, but I almost feel like we talked about this. And one of the challenges was sharing grants. I remember this happened to me sometimes at the Nature Center, when you submit something online and you can't always print it out and you can't necessarily share it. And for some reason, I have a feeling that might be.
The application.
I think you can, at least my experience with the state is that you can almost always print it out. Now, there was a time when that was true,
Yeah, I'm not.
where they'd have these damn forms which you,
They wouldn't let you, there's something. they
But you
can't
can- you can
but
do
maybe
that.
you can. Hopefully.
well, okay, but
You know, we're gonna, we'll want to know from Megan what she views our role in this is. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if our role is already in this grant application. I can't imagine that wouldn't be a selling point to the state, that the town has, you know, established our task force. And so my guess is it contributed to her getting the grant in the first place.
Let's go, we got an aside,
okay,
because we started out talking about
yeah,
the heat and the.
Heat. and a form. Okay, now.
Let's go back to this thing. You want to go back to this?
Yeah, let's go back to things. Okay, so what I would suggest we do. Then the point is, well, take it, I'll say that our first climate form is done and behind us. And recorded, it's available for people to look at. We're thinking about 2 more coming up in the near future without giving them a date at this point. Saying one around the whole issue of heat and centered around potentially around the Quantic Bridge area.
That won't offend anybody, will it?
I think as long as we say heat and, I mean, and that's one of the reasons that I would get the efficiencies, I would say, and things people can do to address heat, because that's not just Quantic Bridge. We don't need to say we're going to hold it in Quantic Bridge right
So
now.
don't do that.
We should just say that we're going to hold a forum for the town on
Dealing with heat.
dealing with heat.
Because I think it applies to other parts of the community as well.
And
Of
we
course. That's why I
anticipate.
just asked the
Yeah,
question.
no, I
I
think
think
it's
you're
right.
right.
I think, and now,
Because there was some indication last time by raising that and pointing at it, some people were offended.
Yeah.
That, no, that is it.
and we don't, that's not what our intent.
Yeah, right.
Okay, enough said. Then there's the third one would be,
Yeah, third one. Sorry.
would be a one centered around the issue of
More like coastal impacts.
coastal impacts.
Storm,
And
sea
that's
level.
different from mystic impacts. And what I think we need to do is I'm not sure we want to run ahead with that. Although you take your point about it's a summer community and people will be there during the summer.
Mhm.
But it's not too dissimilar from what's being looked at Mystic.
Oh, very dissimilar.
You think it's very dissimilar?
Well, not very, but it's major difference. Residential,
Oh, okay,
Coastal,
yeah,
high
yeah,
energy,
yeah,
high
yeah,
energy.
okay. I understand.
commercial, wetland impacts and
Yeah,
effects.
that's true. Okay.
I mean, it's very different.
Okay,
And the insurance, the whole insurance business for residential. Downtown Mystic, they're looking more, I believe, at the historical aspects. And residential is part of it, obviously. But what it means from an economic standpoint and the tourism and business impacts downtown
okay.
is very different than what you say if you're
Well,
looking at Groton or Mumford Cove.
Okay, I don't mind. I mean, and say that as a third possibility. Now, back to your point about doing it this summer. I understand the reasons for wanting to do that. I want to see people's hands go up to say they want to sit here and figure out how to put that whole thing together. Because I don't think that's going to be an easy thing to do.
He knows it all already.
No.
Sort of.
Well, yes, in terms of, at one point
Presentation.
you may, but the heat one,
No, but we're talking
We're
about
talking about the
different time.
coastal one.
I think Megan, I think given the fact that we have this intern, we really should do a heat one in the summer. It's still going to be plenty hot in August and September.
oh, yeah.
And my guess is that people are still going to be on Groton Long Point in September, and that one could be in August, and one could be in
And
September.
the other aspect on both issues is the, what do I want to say? Corporate contacts. We can contact Groton Long Point. They're on the front page of the paper today. we can get Joe Bag of Donuts, who is the chairman of, Groton Long Point. I don't know the name.
Was in the
Sort of
paper.
thing, the same thing.
Yeah, chairman of the,
And we've been looking for the corporate entity, the fire district chief or whatever it is, some of these other locations for communication purposes. So we want to line up the who of it. That's probably more work than the what of it. We can get the insurance guys down from the state, you know that, we work with them at Circa. And a lot of the impact stuff, planning and the rest that can bring in from Bridgeport and so I think that the framework is there. The heat one's a different story.
Yeah, and I think we can get a lot of the framework from Megan. And we have the information to add the utility part of that.
Victor's, also volunteer.
yes, absolutely.
Victor's volunteered to help with that.
Yeah.
For the, and sure, would we also include as part of that? In a way.
Oh, yeah, sure.
All of it,
Oh,
okay, so
sure.
you're not just focused.
No.
Well, you got that.
Same thing with the heat.
Yeah.
The reason that we might do it in close proximity to some of the areas that we believe are particularly hotspots,
Yeah, I
as in
agree.
the generic use of the term, doesn't mean that we're excluding north of 184 or something like that
Okay,
from the area.
okay, so I'm gonna put down,
But let's go, can we go back to this?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so there's the guy's name is in the paper this morning because of the short-term rental stuff. So I will go look up his name, who heads the association out at Groton Long Point.
Right.
Um,
In my estimation, it's absolutely essential that the presentation to the town council be short,
Absolutely.
and as sweet as possible.
okay,
I would begin, because we don't know them and they don't know us, by telling them who we are. We were established by the town council in 2019 for the purposes of, and you have a write-up of what we are.
I've got that already.
Right. That really is, that's probably, in my estimation, 90% of the presentation is who we are, what we, then you can, I would follow it with the resolution, which I think needs to be drilled, because it's been lost sight of, and if it was ever inside of the resolution.
Mhm.
And then the staffing. That's Megan.
Mhm.
And a few of the programs, a few bullets of the programs that have been done and that are planned. And then hopefully you open the floor to them. We're working for you. How do you see us functioning with you? Because if they come back, we've said this before, they come back and there really isn't much interest in, maybe they don't see the need for any addition to what they have now staffed in planning and in the office, then there really gives us an idea where we stand in the next few years. None of us are looking for work, but we're willing to help in any way that we can. But if it really is just
Okay,
have to go
so,
beating on to get something done, there's no sense in doing that. We want a partnership. We'd like to develop a partnership. So the main thing is who we are, where we came from, the resolution and the staffing. And I think that's easily done quickly.
I would add to that the first part of his sort of a list of activities to just tick through them. I think the news and government updates, federal and stuff, I would just.
Yeah, I agree.
Get-
okay,
The one thing that's missing in this is that for the first year and a half, what we did was assess what we saw as the major climate problems in the town. And produced a number of documents that were at least in-house dealing with these issues,
We presented them to them,
Yeah.
our suggestions are.
and they were discussed with the council,
done.
with the council.
That's been done.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to repeat that.
no, you're not
No,
repeating
but
it, but.
so in
you
pursuit
can-
of that, activities since we
That is
last
a
met
very
with
tough.
you.
It said who we
have
are, what we
included-
did was the
Yeah.
assessment, and then you have the resolution and the hiring.
Okay, so the section from news down through electric.
At least to the future of, I mean, the public transportation thing, because I think maybe that is worth mentioning to try to say we've still got a lot of work given the state's
As an example,
this funding, you
And I
know.
think just back to what someone just said, just really so that we can keep this concise. I think, Frank, you've got it exactly right, focusing on those key important things and then just kind of ticking things off, not having to go into any detail. And then they can.
Okay. So that would then start the future items for discussion. I can just simply run through those without actually writing them down on a.
It can be a slide if you want, but
I don't-
think
don't-
you need to.
Don't think we need to do that. And if they want
It's
to,
simple.
I can have that as a backup if they ask. Oh, future of the, yeah, well, that's,
a little drawing under the
Yeah, you're gonna,
future.
I think, raise concerns with some of these future things for,
What we're doing, what do you see our role? To let them, we work for you.
That's right.
I'm sorry, Jesse, you started to say there?
I guess I would just future items for, I mean, you're saying for the town of Groton. I'm concerned to what extent we throw all of these rather large issues out.
I'm, okay, I agree with you about that on one hand. On the other hand, they don't get how big of a problem this is. And I'm happy to throw out those things and say, look, here's, not quite not aggressive, but say, here's some of the major issues we've got. And we have ways we can,
As we see them.
as we see them, and what you can do something about. Everything there that we've listed there, they can do something about.
So as Maggie was saying, maybe just a slide that ticks those off here, you know. There's no lack of things to address. Here is a list of many possibilities.
Okay.
So I
And
think their eyes are gonna glaze over. You know, there's some things that sort of sound similar and then it'll just be muddled. And I think we want to get it as clear and concise as possible.
And with any luck, those things will end up in Megan's plan
Yes.
with a priority and action things, which I think they will.
Well, I hope.
It'll be interesting. The other thing that I said a while ago. To make a long story short, there's no way in the world that we're going to keep our global climate temperatures down below 3 degrees centigrade, maybe 5 degrees centigrade. Given what we are and what the size of the task is, 51 billion tons of carbon dioxide a year removed, and you're pumping it in. I'm taking out 3 and you're putting in 30, sort of a thing. So there are lots of things that we can do to slow the process and should do to slow the process. And it requires, and there's a long story on this because it requires, we're talking this afternoon about electrification and the current insane state of electrification in this country. That there was some talk, in fact, you might even appreciate this, about solar panels. If we all put solar panels on the roof, forget about the economic impact on the Eversource. The electrical guys are telling you that the infrastructure can't handle it.
That's right.
The infrastructure can't handle it.
Right.
Handle it for cars either.
They can't handle cars either.
No, well, I mean, but the feedback in the lines and the transformers and all the rest, the infrastructure. Say, you're wanting me to do all this, and I do all this, and it blows the whole system, kind of a thing, literally. Number one. So you go on, the plan. So you want to contribute, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I mean, we should do the best we can. But adaptation is going to be a major part of the game.
It is the major part of the.
It is the major part of the game. If you
How do
want-
we adapt to what's gonna happen?
Right, we can argue how major, but it's pretty major. So when you're talking about Groton, Long Point, and the rest of, they're gonna be underwater. And probably by 2050, Victoria Beach, the west side there is gonna be uninhabitable the way it is right now. And so you look at it, you say, what does that mean? That's not very far off. You know, we've been here
29 years.
40, 50 years, you know, not that far away. All of a sudden, 29 doesn't look so far away. So that's the other, it sort of runs, the theme that runs through some of, if we get to that point, but it's also the theme I think that we're going to see discussed in the climate action plan.
Yeah, I was gonna raise the two terms, mitigation and adaptation, as being the two and what they mean in terms of what they need to think about.
Right.
I mean, because there's a lot of confusion. Still,
No, the other thing, of course, is the reason I'd love to get the discussion going is I don't have any sense of where the town council stands on all of this. I thought we had a nice meeting with the mayor once back, and he certainly seemed concerned and aware. But you hear very little or see very little in the write-up. I'm not there.
Nothing proactive, it just seems to be reactive.
That's my sense of it.
Yeah.
That's my sense of it. And it's pure, maybe, and I admit pure ignorance. I'm not there Tuesday nights to sit and listen to the argument on the floor. And what you read in the paper is often not comprehensive.
Well, I did think that they were enthusiastic about what Megan said she was going to be doing.
Right.
And so I think my gut feeling is that they are interested in,
Supportive.
and I think that they, yeah, I do think, I agree completely, Frank, that I think that they are thinking about us and what we've been, you know, what we've been telling the old town council needs to be now told to this new town council. And the idea of it being, you know, not just one thing or another, but just everything ties into this. And I do think also that at least some of the hot button issues is important to list as just a topic, you know, go through this list with some of them, I mean, not all of those, but so they know that some of these are controversial topics. They're going to have to be, you know, alert to the impending firestorm when, you know, houses get washed away in Groton, Long Point.
Right.
One of the things that Zell just said was sort of differentiating between mitigation and adaptation. If we take that last list, it divides itself very nicely between those. The first half of it is mitigation, and the second half of it is adaptation. And so you could have one slide, mitigation measures that the town should be considering, adaptation measures
It
that the
introduces
town.
the topics, the subjects,
Yeah,
you know, whatever the details are
Right.
under it,
right,
get them thinking of it.
because they are what they would be. Because
Right.
unfortunately, many people use the term mitigation to mean mitigating the things that you have to adapt to.
right.
Whereas it needs to be clear, mitigation is trying to stop what's causing the problem.
Right.
Right.
Good. What are you gonna do? You're working all weekend on this, and you're gonna give us a draft on Monday, is that the idea?
Something like that.
And you're locked away, your Liz is up on the
Liz is up on
So we
the,
can work 24/7.
24/7, no problem.
So probably from all the Mickey Grams you've been getting, you're aware that I've been really focusing
You throw out a lot of food, is that the idea?
Yeah.
composting food waste and
the hell of a way to go on a diet. The hell of a way to go on a diet.
And so as Zell pointed out, when I told him I'm going to pursue this topic and be doing it in part under the auspices of our committee here, task force.
Sure.
He said that we probably should have an agreement that that is what I should be doing, that I'm kind of authorized to do that. I'm also, as I think you're aware, that there's a League of Women Voters climate group that's also doing this. So, like, for example, I met with that group at SCURA's office with David Aldridge, who's the head of the SCURA. And he's got some really fantastic plans that are actually on paper with designs of a composting processing, organics food waste processing facility that he's putting forward to the town of Preston next week. Unfortunately, the same night as our meeting.
Everything is the same night as our meeting. Isn't your,
Very popular.
Eugenia and Liz's?
Yeah, they got another whole, I don't even know what they're doing, but they got.
I mean, I was hoping that the typo was on the date and not on the day, but it turns out the typo is on the day. We have, because they have Thursday, the 27th. But it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
But it's Tuesday, the 27th. Well,
Didn't I correct
that's the
that?
same night. Huh?
Didn't I correct that in mine? I thought I did.
I don't-
No,
I didn't
it's
see
not, don't worry about it. But
Anyway,
Nikki needs to know too, that Groton Conservation Advocates has been working with SCARA and on the same thing. And Chris Kuhn is the person that's been doing that the most, so another sort of tie-in.
Maybe we should connect with him. If Preston needs to change their zoning, and this is the part that I don't quite get, because the proposal is to put this facility on the property that currently has the just energy. Yeah, and so it's not exactly prime residential or commercial anything, but it seems like it should be an okay thing. And also, the trucks that already go there or the waste to energy, there'll actually be fewer of them going to the waste to energy if the compost is taken, the compostables are taken out, and they'll just turn left instead of right. So it seems like a no-brainer, but we'll see. Fortunately, I can't go to that meeting. And anyway, Aldridge has been taking courses up at Cornell and on this whole idea of doing aerobic processing of organics so it doesn't generate methane. It's a very simple system.
It's well known.
So, yeah, but
I mean, essentially,
of the efforts that are going on other places that are using anaerobic digester types, and they claim that the methane gets used as an energy source, but in fact, you wonder how much of it escapes and how much of it really gets used for anything.
We did it in Westchester County in 1970.
Southern Connecticut.
I mean, it depends upon who's doing it and under what conditions. Because it's a well-established science.
Sure.
And Cornell, in fact, is doing both aerobic and anaerobic.
And
And
using the
Yeah.
methane
Yeah.
in dormitories. That sort of.
so, I mean, there is,
Oh, yeah. So it's in fact, it's old technology. I remember back in the 70s, when I went to a AAAS meeting in Chicago, and one of the opportunities for a field trip that I dragged Irene along with, there's all these other like museums and such, but the Stickney sewage treatment plant had a field trip. And so we went and saw, their digesters for producing usable gas, etc. So the town of Groton was doing, city of Groton, I mean. Anyway, the point is that it could be put on this list. Or, do I have a go-ahead to keep plugging on this under the auspices of the task force? Do you want to talk more about that at a different meeting? That's sort of.
I would sort of suggest that we give you the Godspeed to continue what you're doing, but I think it's premature to bring
Well,
it to.
you
town
can't bring
council.
it to this meeting
No.
for a decision because it's a special meeting. It has to be brought up as an item on the
No,
agenda.
we're not just on the list of stuff.
That's what we're working on, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
We're not, I mean, I don't,
I don't know on the list of things, but we can certainly just minute that Mickey reported on his work with SCARA and stuff
That's
on composting waste.
Well, I just, we
That's great.
put it as one of these bullets. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to get into great
Digestion.
great
That would
detail.
be in the mitigation side. Be in the first side on mitigation.
They get an idea of just all the different things. So
Right.
It's Sarah, right?
Sarah, who,
No,
uh,
Southeastern Connecticut.
That's the Connecticut Regional Resource Recovery Agency.
oh,
Okay,
that's Sarah. I know.
SCRRA.
that's the, hey, right?
Used to be Scar.
Three
Yes,
3 years.
yes.
It's 3 hours?
Regional Resource Recovery.
they took away planning the scarf off.
Okay, I'm happy to put that down there, but,
First,
but you're,
it's gonna hit the fan once they actually have this facility, because especially in the town of Groton, where we are so fragmented in collection, is who's gonna collect it and bring the stuff to this facility? Now, the low-hanging fruit are the commercial folks, like restaurants, even the school cafeterias could easily do this. Household collection is more problematical. I've actually been in communication with the head of the Mystic Fire District, who happens to live right across the
Yeah, I
street.
saw this. You sent us an email on.
Yeah, and you know, there are ways to do this. Can be, for example, a biodegradable plastic bag that's also put it right in with the recyclables. That's what Stonington's doing. Stonington has it.
Pilot program, yeah.
Yeah.
Stonington has it because they have this bag, pay to throw system. It's the best way to go, but we're never gonna get Groton to do that.
I mean, the big problem you're gonna have, as I understand the technology here, is that you want it to go aerobic. And as soon as you put in a bag, you have the chance of it going anaerobic. And then you really lose what it is you're trying to do. Because then you're basically creating a byproduct of methane. And that's not what you want to do. So what I suspect you're going to end up having is you'll have to have a more rapid system of collection. I mean, Noank, they do it every other week, and that won't cut it. Just won't cut it. I mean,
Well, the reason is, I'm sitting here thinking about the Bowman household. And the volume of food that's scraped off the plate, or lettuce that's, or parts of the celery that's, the apples that's, the orange, that sort of thing. I don't think there's I know there isn't a garbage bag full in a week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
We have a huge compost.
It
We
takes
have
me
a-
forever to fill my compost bin.
He had kids, he got somebody around,
we have a tin bucket of the river. It's this round, this high,
right?
and we fill it up probably once a week.
Yeah, that's.
And it goes out to our compost, and we've just, as you speak, we just ordered, and it's still in the package, a rotating one, so that we can really get it to.
And for a while, that was, back in late or early 90s, Huntington did a big program because they did it with the nature center. So we would sell these discount composts, and we sold hundreds of them. And people got those big plastics for their compost things, and
Right.
there was a real effort to get people to do home composting. And
Right.
I mean, part of the,
stopped. I don't really know. I don't find that's not.
well, there's no reason why it couldn't be done up here at our transfer center.
Yeah.
Because they have all the browns they need up there.
Amen.
And what you want to do is mix the browns and the green in the right amount, and then aerate it. But also keep it moist so that it actually cooks.
One of the things actually, this stuff gets up to about 150 degrees. They actually have thermistors in the thing to monitor. And so it actually, this is aerobic.
Yeah.
It actually can take meats. and bones and stuff. It's not.
It's just short of being on
Put
fire.
meats out.
You gotta be careful with that, because I understand. I took a whole course in this thing 10 years ago. We went to a bunch of, and the people who are doing this big time for money are the people who make mulch and other
Sure.
additives,
Sure.
and they know how to do it. I mean, they have one they call a fast patch, and bring that baby up to 160 degrees. And it just smokes through cooking it. And then, but they don't always want to do that. So there's a bunch of ways you can do it, but you gotta be on your game.
My composting was around the time of the mycelium. We had 50-gallon drums of mycelium of the variety. There was surface and bottom mycelium at the lab. We're doing erosion studies.
Yeah.
And I took a barrel home with me and had it in the backyard. And it's sort of sitting there. It's underwater. A lot of water's in there. I don't know. But I gotta tell you, you take a scoop of that stuff and put it in the compost pile. You could hear those little microbes.
Oh,
They said, hallelujah, and they do it. And the activity
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
was incredible. It just go through that stuff. So I mean, a little bit of stimulant should go a long way with these
Well,
things.
This is another.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Well, I think a lot could be done with that, and I'm happy to have you do it, but to get us formally to agree to do that, we need to do it at a regular meeting. That's all.
Okay. Is there a write-up, some of this? You said you took a course. There must be some articles on it.
Oh, the
Oh, there's
articles
all over the place.
I would send you out one a day.
No, I read the email. Oh, you have attachments to it?
And the New York Times, actually, interestingly, about 3 weeks ago, you know, their wire cutter where they recommend, they did a very inexpensive compost bin, which was really cool because it sort of said this is within the reach.
Composting, we're familiar with, could be.
Yeah, but this was a $75.
So you want to, you read it. It's hot off the press. It was done by the Connecticut,
Resource recovery,
no, there's
Ag
a
experiments.
Ag
there's a newspaper that's done online,
Connecticut Mirror.
Connecticut Mirror, did a great piece.
It's
They
good.
have a reporter there who's on this topic big time, and it talks about how the legislature, among other environmental non-action, this was one of them that unfortunately was close to getting some action and didn't, getting these SCURA and other resource recovery agencies some money to move ahead. Anyway,
It's a disastrous legislative session.
yes, I got one about Korea and New York City.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so anything further about this outline?
No.
Got
Okay, so I will go ahead and try to rearrange this. I've got to start on some of this stuff. I'll have to put it together so that it's fully out there.
Good job, and you know, if
This part.
we've done a lot of stuff. We're just.
Well, on a good day, I think we have. On a bad day, I think we haven't done enough.
But I think, you know, just say, I'm sorry to be the last to arrive, be the first to leave, but I actually have another meeting and arrive is picking me up at 5 o'clock.
We are very glad you came.
Well, you have 2 minutes in that case. Is there any other? Is there any other? Okay.
That's the main thing. What time are we meeting?
We're meeting at 6:30, unless I can get it better defined.
And where is it?
It'll be at the
Senior centers.
no,
No,
it'll
here.
be here in the next
Okay.
door. On Tuesday, the 27th. Okay, so we talked about the extreme thing. We talked about, new members for the task force. I have started an effort to reach out to a couple of people and
Something just flashed on the screen. That wasn't for you. What's that say?
1, 5.
Good. Go ahead.
if you have anybody who you think would be good, just to give you, I'm looking for, younger people, and I'm looking for diversity across all sectors. So we'll see where we go with this thing. I'm gonna try to work this pretty hard.
What about the associations?
What do you mean associations?
Mumford Cove and
Well,
Groton.
I mean, that's certainly a source of names.
If you know of anybody. Okay, I
I
mean,
mean, there are environmental groups in both, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's a conservation.
and don't, I mean, think outside the box. One of the things that was very clear that, the role that Victor and Sarah played, really important. in
Darn
terms of Health. So if you know doctors or, people who, have an industrial level, that's fine.
No, I think it's important to keep it like all naturalists.
No, but I mean, we need to have a diversity of backgrounds, because we're pretty heavily biologically.
Right,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I can think of some Pfizer folks, I mean, Mumford Cove and GLP to a certain extent is mostly an over 65.
yeah, we want their kids.
Yeah,
That's what we want.
what about schools? I don't know.
well, I mean, if we all start thinking about people we know and friends of friends, I'm sure some.
Is it Kathy Howard? Went up, she's teaching at the Marine Magnet School.
Yeah, she's looking right, you know, something,
I know, but I'm saying, thinking of
oh,
some contacts with the schools.
sure.
There's somebody that at the Seaport that would just move in right now, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
No,
It's not
because it cuts
so-
both sides of the river and it brings in a large,
Right.
Organization, so that kind of
Organization.
stuff.
now, all of this parenthetical, all of this depends on what we hear on Tuesday night.
All right,
Sure.
so we will see.
Okay.
I have the, at the moment, I have a conflict on Tuesday and I'm trying to switch it, move to Wednesday, but.
Okay,
Anyway, we will be in touch.
thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, Maggie.
Okay.
You too.
Maggie, come for any time. On Tuesday, if you can get a half an hour.
Yeah,
Okay, so next regular meeting is on July 13th. Are you all gonna be in town?
No idea.
No idea.
Oh, no, actually, the 13th, I will not be in town. I will not be here, that's for sure.
Okay,
I'll be in Halifax, please God.
Sparse enough attendance anyway.
pardon?
We have sparse enough attendance anyway.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'll have to call around and figure out what to do to make that happen. Anything else anybody wants to informally bring up? Okay, well, thank you all for helping out on this. We'll see how this all goes together. And it is important if you can come Tuesday night to come.
We do know I.
And I know you have.
Just how they are.
Huh?
Well, we can do that offline.
Um,
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
A second, but I'll second it.
Okay,
I think Mickey seconded
Oh, did you?
Mickey seconded.
All right, great.
This ends it right up here.
and down the corner.
Where? Oh, and
You know, this intern is gonna be with us for the whole year, or is that just a summer internship?
Just a
how do you
second.
make this thing work?
So maybe,
Because the other
but she's doing the heat thing, right? Sure. Thank you, Frank.
She was that woman who had this phenomenal resume.
I don't know, it's supposed to be down here. And for all, right?
Yeah.